freaking first cut. Golly. Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your DFS preview for this week's Worldwide Technology Championship. It's that event in Cabo San Lucas. Joining me to break it all down, Greg DuCharme is here. Hello, Greg.
Hello, Rick. Good evening, or whatever time it is for you over there. I hope your trip's going well. We enjoyed a little week off on the PGA Tour, but I'm glad to be back. Final 3 weeks here of the FedEx Cup Fall. It should be pretty exciting.
That's right. Yes, it is Tuesday morning for me. So this will be the last show that I do from Australia. We are getting on a plane tomorrow and coming back home, which will be very good. But you're right. We've had a week off, which is rare, a rare bye week. So we have not had this show since the Monday of the Zozo Championship. The guys that went to Japan got a week off to get kind of back acclimated to their regular time zones.
Yeah, and now they got their final push to, secure their spot and get a better idea what their schedule is going to look like for next year. So it's some really important play. And look, 500 FedEx Cup points on the line for the FedEx Cup Fall makes a huge difference.
It would go a long way right now for a lot of guys. Well, let's talk about the golf course. Josh, if you want to share my screen, I've got the scorecard up. Now, this is an event that dates back a while, right? Mayakoba Classic, OHL, then, of course, the Worldwide Technology Championship. But this is just the second time that we are going to be playing El Cardonal at Diamante. This is the Diamante Resort in Cabo. It is a Tiger Woods designed golf course. We got away, Greg, from El Chameleon. That is now on the Live Golf schedule with the ties to Greg Norman, and we are playing here for the second time.
Yes. And so, of course, when you're looking at this, it's really important to go to course history, not tournament history. Because not only is it a new golf course, but very different golf course. El Chameleon was very narrow, and a lot of the groves surrounding the fairways and trouble on both sides, and it was a short golf course. This is pretty much the opposite of that. It's a longer golf course, over 7,400 yards, par 72, and the fairways are very wide, and the greens are just enormous, Rick. I mean, 8,300 square feet on average, which we've seen with the Shriners. We saw it with the Black Desert as well. These really big greens lead to really high green irregulation percentages with the really big fairways. It wouldn't surprise me if someone hit all the fairways this week. That's a very real possibility. I mean, I think Van Rooyen last year, who won, missed 6 fairways and was like tied 38th. For the week.
I thought he missed 4. I don't have it in front of me.
It could have been. That probably was it.
I think he missed, either 4 or 6 fairways. He missed 10 greens, and he was not even really close to the lead in either category.
No. I mean, I was looking back through that leaderboard, and some of the players down near the bottom who made the cut, like Lucas Glover, missed like 2 fairways for the whole week. So it definitely de-emphasizes driving accuracy. Now, we have had this conversation before with some of these kind of golf courses, like the Shriners and like Black Desert, where you get a lot of wedges from the fairway, and there's a lot of opportunities to make short game birdies. This golf course has some of that, but there are a lot of long iron shots. I think I would estimate you're going to be outside of, say, 175 yards on probably 10 occasions where you're actually approaching the green. So there is a slight emphasis on those longer iron shots. But at the same time, you look at this leaderboard who had, you had guys like Matt Kuchar, who probably should have won this tournament. Of course, you had Camilo Villegas, who was playing really well, Justin Suh, Andrew Putnam. A lot of guys on this leaderboard from last year were very good putters. And again, I think it's really important to emphasize when you end up with really big greens, guys hit a lot of them, and it's hard to separate yourself with that, with just iron play alone. So on these types of golf courses, I really like to look at putting as a really important stat, more so than most. But I do feel like because of the length of this golf course, there's still an element of importance with iron play, specifically from long ranges.
The course bookends with par fives. Number 1 and number 18 are both par fives. 27 under par was the winning score last year, Greg. And I was, it is fun to go back and click through some of the numbers because they are fairly outrageous. Matt Kuchar's birdie or better rate last year was near 50%. I mean, I think he made 30 or 31 birdies and an eagle, something like that. Remember, he only played 72 holes. So once you get to 36, you're at the halfway point. So this is barring any type of wind coming into play defense, which is probably unlikely. This is going to be one of those events where you need to take advantage of every single opportunity.
Now, you do have the 4 par fives. So if you just do some kind of a simple breakdown of what it's going to take, you got 4 par fives, and you have number 3, which is 351. You can drive it really close to the green if you wish. Number 10's 344. You could drive it up really close to the green if you wish. And so that's 6 holes. So 6 times 4 is 24. That can get you pretty close. But the reality is you're going to have to make some birdies on some of these longer holes. You're going to have to make a couple birdies here or there because you're not going to run the table on the par fives, unfortunately. That you're not going to run the table on these really short par fours where you can get it up around the green. So I do think that it's also somewhat important to have the ability to make birdies with some legitimate iron shots coming into the greens. Seems like we may have lost Rick.
I don't know, Greg. Can you still hear me?
Still there? Yeah, I hear you. I just can't see you.
Yeah, my camera turned off. So I'm going to try to unplug it and plug it back in. But this is a fine time because we are just about to switch and go look at the player pool, which is exactly what we're going to do.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
Stat Street could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
And we're back, and I'm back, Greg.
There you go. It worked.
Maybe I hit a button or something. I didn't plug it back in. It seems to be fine.
Well, look, this is the Worldwide Technologies event, and you're using technology across the world.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe there's something going on with that.
I love it. Well, let's look at the player pool here. This is the cheat sheet at RickRunGood.com, and there are two very interesting names, Greg, at the top of this board. Max Greyserman, welcome to the top. The most expensive golfer, he's $10,400, and Cameron Young is $10,200. That's it. I don't know about you, Greg, but if you told me that these two guys would be the 2 most expensive golfers and Max would be more expensive than Cam Young, even 5 months ago, I think I'd probably be surprised, but that's where we're at.
That's where we're at. And, you may look at that and say, well, that means that it's a terrible field. I don't necessarily think that's the case. As we go through the rest of this, there are a number of players on this in the 9 and 8K range that I really like. There's definitely a drop off when we get down to the 6K range. But, it's interesting because if you want to bypass this 10K range entirely, I think you can certainly do that. It's only 2 players. And so I think that's a possibility, an option to consider. That being said, I would say in this range, Greyserman, who you have up here on your screen, is definitely the play that I'm looking at for a couple reasons. One, he really, with the exception of the BMW Championship, which is at altitude at the end of the season, he really made a big stride towards the end of the year with his iron play and his ball striking. I think that bodes well. But what he's done with the putter is just phenomenal. Sometimes we see this in Birdie Fest where the course setup doesn't necessarily fit the top guys, because what they have trained themselves to do is to handle a different kind of test. And so their assets don't always equate to the required test on a birdie fest type golf course. But with Max Greyserman, I really think his game does match up well with this golf course. I mean, Rick, he gained 10 strokes putting at the Zozo, 6 at the BMW, right? It's not just once. It's not an outlier. It's strange.
Yeah, he's not going to gain 10 strokes putting again. I think that's fairly safe to say. However, he might gain 6 or 7 or 8 because he kind of does that much more routinely than a lot of his peers. I've got a couple of nuggets for you here, Greg. Since the US Open, Max Greyserman is one of the top 10 players in the world. I'm not talking about in this field. I'm not talking about the PGA Tour. I'm talking about strokes gained for everybody in the world. Max Greyserman is inside the top 10. And during that period, there is no one who has putted better than Max Greyserman. He's picking up 1.1 strokes per round on the putting surface since the US Open.
Well, I mean, in 4 out of his last 5 events, he's gained at least 6.4 strokes or more. On 2 occasions, it's more. That's an incredible run with the flat stick, especially for someone who hits it pretty well. I mean, not every week. Right. You know, he's not Xander Schauffele with the ball striking or Scotty Scheffler, but he's been hitting it pretty well, hitting his fair share of greens and still putting up numbers like that with the putter. I feel like he is really chasing down a win. Something has changed in his game, and for that reason, he's my top play in the 10K range of 2.
3 runner-up finishes in his last 5 starts, and you're right, he is not reliant on the putter. He actually hits it quite well. Here's Cam Young, $12,200. We have not seen him since his season ended at the BMW Championship. The playoffs were not good. T61 at the FedEx St. Jude, in which he was pretty miserable. BMW Championship, he got there. I mean, he's finishing within 10 spots of a last in both of these events. He finished T43 at the BMW Championship. Pretty bad stat profile there. Greg, he's going to get an opportunity to get a reset. It's been over 2 months since we've seen him last. What is our take on the version of Cam Young that we are going to get this week?
This is a tough one. Now, I'll say this. When it came to Max Greyserman at the Zozo, we were okay with it, even though he struggled with the ball striking, finishing out the season. And I think you're seeing some of that with Cam Young as well. Like, you look at this, and if you don't go to the date column, well, you're seeing a really bad ball striking performance in Memphis and at the BMW Championship as well. And with his putting resume, it's a sign that things are not going very well for his game. But, those things happened in August. I think you got to take a step back and look at Cam Young's game from a wider perspective. And if you do that, his ball striking is really quite good. The problem is I do think putting is going to be really important this week. And for the second highest priced player in the field, I'd like to see more proficiency on the greens. And so he's become somewhat unreliable with the putter. I think he would admit that himself. I think there's a world where you can play him. You're just taking a big chance. And I don't think I'm ready to take that chance because of the struggles he's had on the greens.
If you do step back, his ball striking against this field over the last 100 rounds is in the 93rd percentile. So it is something that if we're going to be fair and kind of reset him back, which is what we tend to do during off seasons or periods of downtime from competitive play, then you have to remember he's still one of the most talented, if not the most talented player in this field. But I'm with you. I think I've tried to be early on Justin Thomas and Ricky Fowler. I want to see like a touch. I want to see a touch of play from Cam Young before I start buying back in again.
Yeah, and the other thing is, even if it goes really well and you get to Sunday, there are some very legitimate concerns about how he can close the deal. And like Eric Von Rooyen showed last year, whether you have a 5-shot lead heading into the final round or a 1-shot lead or you're going to have to go on Sunday, no matter what. And I still think questions loom with Cam Young in that regard.
Skipping the 10K range and going down to the 9K range is a pretty interesting strategy for this week, because there are 9 golfers here, and these are the guys that are probably playing the best golf. The guys that we have seen week in and week out on this FedEx Cup fall. We've talked a lot about them, Greg. So it's Ben Griffin, Bo Hostler, Doug Ghim, Matty Schmid, and Lucas Glover is right there at 9,500. And then we round out the rest of the group with Maverick McNeely, Harry Haw, Keith Mitchell, and JJ Spawn. We have spent a lot of oxygen on these guys in the fall. They are all here for a reason, mostly because of recent form. How are we going to separate some from the others?
Yeah, again, I think there's a world where you can play a lot of these guys. If we just look at the top half first, my two favorite in this range they're both at the same price at 9,600. That would be Doug Ghim and Matty Schmid. So why don't we start with Doug Ghim here, Rick? It's been, he was T27 at the Zozo, second at the Shriners, tied 25th at the Black Desert, and tied 33rd at the Sanderson Farms. And he did a lot of that on ball striking. But we have seen better putting performances the last 2 weeks. And I'm willing to, attach my, attach to the Doug Ghim train here, if you will.
I think that he answered a question for me at the Zozo. It wasn't a resounding answer, but he answered it in the positive because he gained those 3 strokes putting at Shriners, but TPC Summerlin is where, like, we knew that was coming. It's a place he plays at all the time. Very, very familiar. I was wondering if he was going to be able to travel to Japan and keep that putting up, and he did. It was a very small positive putting week, but to me, that answered a little bit of a question because I was cautious about that. So very good sign.
Yeah, it tells you that something's possibly trending in the right direction. Yeah. And if that's true, with the way that he hits the ball, he could go win this week. So I think he's certainly an option. And then to Matty Schmid, who, geez, I mean, if you skip the 10K range, you could play both of these guys if you wanted to. Matty Schmid, you just simply can't ignore. I think he checks all the boxes. We've seen him gain strokes putting in his last 4 starts worldwide. 3 of those have come on the PGA Tour this fall at both the Shriners and the Black Desert. He has top 5s, and no surprise, gained over 4 strokes putting in both of those weeks. So we love what he's doing with the broomstick. And the ball striking matches. And even if you look at more granular statistics, like these approach shot distances, he's really quite good from 175 to 200 with all of his length, 225 to 250, which is a lot of those par 5s. He's top 10 on the PGA Tour, obviously top 10 in this field as well. I think that's a rather important area, and I like where Matty Schmid sits in those categories.
Let me paint a scenario here in which last year Matty Schmid gains 6.2 strokes on approach at El Cardonal and finishes T38. He lost 3 strokes putting. That was a very normal stat profile for him last year. Let's keep the +6 on approach and add in any. I'll take any of the last 4 on the putting green. +2, +2, +6, +4. That is at least a 5-stroke improvement up to a 9-stroke improvement. I understand that is not how this works, right? I don't just get to hold the best stuff and throw away the bad stuff and draw again. This isn't like 5-card draw or anything like that. But I think it is indicative that he is in a very different spot now than he was last year.
Yes, I think that's true. And he also, did I see that he lost strokes off the tee last year as well? So yeah, he's been driving the ball great as well, which is a significant thing. He gained 6 strokes on approach. That would be a good week as of right now, but it's very possible. Right? He's gained in his last 3. He's gained in 6 out of his last 7, although it hasn't been 6 strokes. It's very easy to see that that's on the way, on the horizon. So I think Matty Schmid is very real and very much someone you got to pay attention to.
Those are both $9,600. As we look down at the bottom of the 9K range, Greg, what stands out to you?
Yeah, 2 more guys that I think we got to pay attention to. One of them, this one may be a little more risky, but again, pay attention to this putting acumen. It's your boy, Rick, Ariel. And I think Harry is somewhat important to pay attention to here because he's still continued, although it hasn't been consistent, he has continued the iron play improvement, which was at one point terrible. And now it seems to be pretty good, at least have the potential to be really good. And you combine that with what he does on the greens and recent performances, tied 18th on the European Tour at the BMW PGA, tied 35th at the Black Desert with, I believe it was a really tough final round for him, tied 9th at the Shriners, tied 13th at the Zozo. You know, things have been going very well for Harry Hall, and I'm leaning on his putter this week. I think it could be a good spot for him.
Yeah, there's, again, we knew he was going to play well in Las Vegas. Did he play well at the Zozo? Opposite ends of the world, very different types of golf course. Answers both of those questions. So the form is traveling. When I look at somebody like JJ Spawn, he's been someone, Greg, that we've talked about a lot and how good his approach play has been. Do you have any concerns about this golf course kind of not allowing him to lean into the strengths of his driver, which is more accurate than it is long? And like, do we have concerns that this is just a bad spot for him?
No, I don't. He was actually the fourth guy on my list here. And the reason, Rick, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm not going to penalize him because he's been hitting the ball well and hitting the ball accurately. I may penalize him if he was leaning too much on the ball striking and really struggling on the greens and around the greens. But he's been performing just fine in those areas as well. So I have no concerns with him on a golf course like this. And it may not be the best comparison, but he did play well at the Houston Open. He was tied 36 there. That one maybe even required a little more distance. But he's played really well at the Century as well. Nearly won that 2 years ago. And I could see that being somewhat of a similar golf course. He finished tied fifth there in 2023. I think there are some similarities there stylistically as well, where you're not rewarded for accuracy. But this is a guy that's playing well enough right now to handle just about any kind of golf course. I think at 9,000 with what we've seen from him across the board, I think it's well worth it.
He's my candidate to hit 66 screens in regulation.
Yeah, he could do that because he could also, what do we got? 50. We have 56 fairways this week. He could hit all of those as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'll have to remember to check that at the end of the week. I think JJ Spawn's going to pile up a lot of these.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it won't be hard to, because he'll be near the top of the leaderboard.
That's true.
It also doesn't seem like he's reached his peak yet. Like he's building and he's showing this proficiency across the board, and it hasn't led to a win in contention, but everything is close. So he's got to be feeling great heading into this week.
Yeah. The other thing is, so he's played, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 starts in a row. This is going to be 5 starts in a row, but it's not even 5 weeks in a row. It is like the perfect little mini bye for a lot of these guys that have been teeing it up every single week. This is awesome. I'm not even worried about any of these guys being tired.
Yeah, it's a good point as well, because you got a forced week off, so you don't have to skip it, and hopefully a lot of that good play carries over.
Josh, okay, let's. I was gonna say we'll save the break, but we've got a lot of names, 10 of them in the 8K range. Then we're gonna get to the 7s and the 6s. We are gonna continue this conversation after a quick word from our partners.
Baby, we are gonna start a fire.
From world-renowned clubs
Simply devastating.
to worldwide stars,
Wrexham have done it. This incredible ride continues.
the English Football League on CBS Sports Network, and stream every match live on Paramount Plus.
And we're back, Greg. Here's the big 10 in the 8K range. Harris English, Johnny Vegas, Sam Stevens, defending champion Eric Van Rooyen, and Matt Kuchar are $8,500 or more expensive. Then we go to Taylor Moore, Tom Hoagie, Rico Hoey, Patrick Rogers, and Patrick Fishburne, pair of Patricks, rounding us out at the bottom. more questions here than certainly in the 9K range. What draws your attention?
Yeah, I start right off at the top here, Rick, with Harris English, who I'm very impressed with what he's done in his last 2 starts, back-to-back top 10s. He's leaned a lot on the putter and the short game, seems to be driving it well. I think this is a great kind of golf course for him. It's similar in a lot of regards to the Shriners and the Black Desert, where you have these huge greens, and his deficiency is probably his iron play. But I think he can lean on the putter this week, and I think he's swinging well enough. I've seen plenty of signs from him that suggest he's hitting the ball, swinging well enough to hit these massive greens. And then you can start leaning on the putter, which he's gained 5 strokes or more in the last 2. I also love the pedigree, and I think it's a very fair price on Harris English.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot. When he starts doing this, when he starts gaining throughout the bag, he's very, very dangerous. I also I saw Sam Stevens here, who is just below. I believe he's $8,700. He is starting to really put his game together. He hasn't missed a cut in the fall. He's 4 for 4, worst finish there, 37th, and a couple of top 25s in his last 2. So I saw him at $8,700, and I was willing to pay up just a bit more, the $100 more than to go back to EVR, who's kind of been scuffling a little bit.
Yeah, EVR's been scuffling for sure. But you know what you might do, Rick, is go just pay up even a little more than Sam Stevens to Johnny Vegas.
Okay.
Who has my interest. And we had this conversation like after he won the 3M. The ball striking has been there. What are we going to get out of the putter? What kind of results is that leading to? He's gained some strokes on the greens. I think there's some real evidence that his putting has improved and he's starting to feel good about it. Another guy that's gaining pretty much throughout the bag, maybe short game has been a little bit of a concern, but he has good long iron metrics. And I'm very pleased to see this putting improve. And while we haven't gotten, another win, it does feel a lot more possible. You mentioned, hey, we got this one win, but it's a flash in the pan. And I'm starting to see some evidence that there may be more juice to squeeze out of Johnny Vegas. That's what I've seen this fall.
His fall putting numbers have been really splendid. He's picked up at least a stroke and a half in 3 out of his last 4, which I'm not going to scroll through all of Johnny Vegas's career results, but I bet you there are not many times in which he has gone 3 for 4 with the putter. Here, that was in 2022, and it wasn't as big of a. I mean, yeah, it doesn't happen frequently. So maybe pay attention because, like you said, the rest of the game has always been there.
Going down a little bit farther, this one it may seem a little tough to explain, but I believe in the talent and I like the trend I'm seeing. That's Taylor Moore at 8,400. I think Taylor Moore is so good. And all of a sudden he's starting to click off some really nice tournaments off the tee, driving it really well. He's putted really well in his last 3 events. Short game has been great. Doesn't necessarily lean on the ball striking, but we've seen tied 42nd, tied 29th, tied 11th in his last 3. I love that trend. And I think this golf course could fit his game nicely.
I want to believe in Taylor Moore. I do, because I love his game as well. When he won, what was it,
Valspar.
That we kind of saw that coming, and I was like, okay, this kid is really gonna kind of get rocking and rolling. Haven't seen it. You're right. The trend lines are better. Very good off the tee in his last 3. The putter's been great throughout. He's just got to give himself a couple more opportunities.
Yeah, I think that's true. But also important to note. That has gone from losing 4.71 to losing 2.68 to losing 0.57 at the Zozo. So it does seem like all these things are trending in the right direction. If that continues, it's going to be a really nice finish for him.
I agree. Okay.
I got one more guy in this range, and it won't surprise you. I think everybody at this point knows that I love following this guy and I believe in the upside, and we're starting to see it. And that's Rico Hoey.
Yeah.
It's just awesome, right? Because that We knew about this last year and it didn't happen. And now it is. Now it's really happening. Throughout this fall, you're looking at a tied 37th, 68th, tied 21st, tied 3rd, tied 22nd, and you're starting to see a complete game. Guy that's comfortable. He's starting to putt really well, drives it like a madman, which again, not necessarily important, but never hurts. The short game has been good. I'm just so impressed with this overall game. I don't see a reason why I wouldn't continue this week.
Yeah, his game has matured so much, and I like to note this. So gains throughout the bag at the Zozo, gains throughout the bag at the Shriners, nearly does it at the Black Desert Championship despite a .06 loss, less than 1/10 of a stroke on approach to the negative there. That gaining throughout the bag is one of the very few, not very few, but it's like a very predictive stat profile. It doesn't happen often, and it doesn't happen where a golfer, not named Scotty Scheffler or Xander Schauffele, does it multiple weeks in a row. If you remember back to when Jake Knapp won, that's what he was doing right before. There's a couple other examples of this where you get these guys farther down the board. When they start gaining throughout the bag, it is usually very predictive of good things coming. Maybe not necessarily wins, but it is harder for them to just drop completely off. And that's what we're seeing out of Rico Hoey right now. He's darn near done it 3 starts in a row, which is getting into some pretty elite territory.
And sometimes you start seeing spikes in one area, and maybe his iron play goes off this week, and you see a regression in his short game because he doesn't have to chip at all. Things like that can happen as well, and all of a sudden, sometimes that creates the very best results. He also gained throughout the bag in July at the ISCO, where he came and tied second, and perhaps that was indicative of what we've seen so far this fall. Again, that was followed with a tied 8th at the Barracuda. I know those aren't the greatest fields, but this isn't either. So I think it's a very comfortable spot for him.
Yeah. Hey, beat the field that they put in front of you. That's what you've got to do.
You can only play who's on your schedule, right?
That's what they say. Also on that schedule is a massive range of $7,000 golfers, 35 of them. Daniel Berger, Austin Eckroat, a pair of PGA Tour winners at the top, 79 and 7,800. The middle of the range, just saw the victory from Nico Echeverria right there at 7,500. Joe Highsmith is 74. And then at $7,000 even, that'll get you Luke List, Cam Champ, Trace Crow, and a couple of other guys. What do you see here, Greg?
Yeah, this is where we got to start taking some risks. We run into some issues and problems, and there are a couple guys here that I like. I've got 4 of them on my list. One of them is Michael Kim.
Ooh, okay.
Now, Michael Kim missed a whole bunch of cuts in a row. He missed a cut or WD'd in every event from the 3M to the Shriners from last week. But a lot of these missed cuts were very narrow missed cuts. He was very close. And that could be a concern, but I'm seeing what he's doing with his iron play, and it's very good. He putted well at the Shriners, which could, maybe that gives him a little bit of momentum with the flat stick. But what he does really well, he's a very good long iron player. Yeah. He starts hitting 4 irons and 5 irons. He's going to have an opportunity to do that this week. So at 7,700, I'm willing to take a chance on him.
Okay, so he's 7,700. That's the same price as Neil Shipley and Adam Svensson, just to kind of give you a little bit of a reference point. Where else we going here, Greg?
Yeah, let's just stay at the same price. Neil Shipley, we talk about him all the time. We've spent so much time on him. I'm just seeing a little upward trend with the putter for him. Last 2 weeks have been much better. That's been the area of concern when he has not played well. But this game is starting to look pretty complete. He did gain throughout the bag at the Procore and the Shriners, where he Monday qualified, and we had him based on his price as an auto play. Of course, he let us down a little bit with a tied 40 T41 finish. But I still think we're on that positive trend line. I think he could be really good, and I think he's underpriced.
it was fairly cheap at the Shriner, so he probably didn't burn us. But the 3 strokes that he lost around the green was probably costing you a fairly big week. But I mean, he is flush. He has gained in both off the tee and approach categories in 5 straight and in 6 of his last 7, which is 6 of the 8 measured events that I even have on him. So the dude can absolutely find the center of the club face. And like you said, he's the really bad putting performances might be behind him. And we're starting to see some better stuff here as of late. $7,700. He was one of the guys that was on my list as well.
May not, like you said, flush, may not be the best golf course for him as a result of that. But sometimes you see these young guys and they get into these kind of tournaments and they just start to feel some extreme confidence, and they chase the win. They really want to win. They feel like they can win. And I think Neil Shipley should look at his performances and say, hey, I clean things up a little bit. I'll be right there come Sunday. And I don't think he'll be afraid if he's in that position.
That's 2 of the 4. Where else we going?
Yeah. I go down a little bit farther to 7,400. I find Joe Highsmith.
Yeah.
I've been very pleased with it. What a turnaround for him. And a lot of it has had to do with the putter. Yeah, he's now gaining 4 of his last 6.
This is a really good one, Greg. This is the one. This is the one that if you just look at where you could find strokes to win a golf tournament or to I don't even say that. I shouldn't say to win, to beat yourself, right? To beat like your baseline version of yourself. Joe Highsmith has all of that. Like the unbelievable tee to green play. All of a sudden, with this bizarre putting stroke, he is rolling things in. This is where you find extra strokes right here on this profile.
And I love when guys make changes to the putter and see results right away. It's like there's something new that has taken place, and it doesn't detract from the rest of your game. It's a bizarre thing, but we've seen it time and time again. I could see the article already. Joe Highsmith leads after round 1 of the, of the Worldwide Technologies after switching putter grips 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, so credits new putting grip.
Yes, exactly. Right, you can already see that. It wouldn't surprise me if that happens. He's also really good in those long iron ranges. And has done well in some of the birdie fests we've seen on the FedEx Cup fall already this year.
Yeah, 13th in birdie or better percentage this season. He is certainly capable of holding his breath. He's 74. Okay, he was on my list as well. Where's your last?
Yeah, last one would be Henrik Norlander. Again, I put a little more emphasis this week on iron play at the Shriners. I don't think it was extremely important, and he did miss the cut. Although, somewhat narrowly he lost about 2 strokes to the field in his first 2 rounds. But Henrik Norlander has been playing some really good golf when he's had the opportunity to start. He's missed very few cuts. He has recorded some top 10s. And he's another guy when you start looking at those 175 to 200, 200 to 225, 225 to 250, his name pops up in those areas as well all the time. I think Norlander bounces back from the missed cut at the Shriners.
Honorable mention to Alex Smalley, who loves himself some Paspalum. Honorable mention to Nick Hardy, who as Greg pointed out to me a couple of weeks ago, is playing a lot better golf than I would have imagined. The Nico Echeverria guy just won last week is $7,500. I'd be interested to see if he can back that up for this time around.
Yeah. Not a whole lot of evidence of that, unfortunately, Rick.
Actually, like a ton of evidence in the other direction.
Yes, but it was a great performance, so we'll root for him, but he's not making my lineup.
Yes. Now, this is where we start running into some problems. We are in the 6K range. That's Dylan Wu, Kevin Streelman, and a few others at the top. The middle of this range is Garrick Higo, Brandon Wu. The bottom of this range, believe it or not, Martin Trainer, Paul Barjon, remember him, Tyson Alexander, Billy Andrade is in this field. I've got at least...
And not min price.
Yeah, and not min priced. I've got at least 2.5 that I'm comfortable with. Where do you want to start here?
I'm very curious to know who your 2.5 are. I've got 2, and I don't really feel good. I feel okay about 1.
Wesley Bryan.
All right,
Wesley
I saw him.
Bryan's fall has been T13, T37, T21, where he's gained a lot of strokes off the tee, and he is historically not very long. So I don't know if he's picking these up. I don't know if he's got a little added distance or if he's just hitting every single fairway. But the putter's insane. The game seems to be pretty sharp. Wesley Bryan, after a miserable 2024, has played a lot better in the fall.
Yeah, that's fair.
But if you model any longer than 12 rounds, he looks horrible.
Okay. So we're on, tight recent form.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. Look, you're not going to find great options here. So you got to be willing to take some chances. One of the chances that I'm taking is just $100 cheaper than Wesley Bryan, and it's Shea Rivet. We have not seen the performances, the finishing positions of Wesley Bryan, but there's still some really good iron play lingering. The putter, you look at his last 7 events or so, the putter seems to be trending in the right direction. Seems to be a little better. He putted really well in Utah, although he didn't hit the ball well. And even though he's a really short hitter, I do think he's one of those guys that can hit every fairway this week. And he's really good in the long iron categories, even as a shorter hitter. Even 225 to 250, you'll see Ches Reavie's name popping up there, even though it may surprise you. So yeah, he's like 12th on the PGA Tour from 225 to 250. That could give him some opportunities on par 5s. So his name pops up all over those long iron categories, if you will. I think also 200 to where is he? Well, anyway, you get what I'm saying. You're taking a little bit of there he is. Okay. Yeah, he's 40th from 200 to 225 as well.
Which in this field, he's probably like 13th or something like that.
Yeah, right in that range, just off the first page of the leaderboard.
Harry Higgs is my second one.
Now you love the Corn Ferry Tour.
Yeah, I'll wait till we get to my half a guy. Had a really good year, right? Had the back-to-back wins. I know that was in May. Didn't play as well coming down the stretch, but he made the cut in 6 of his last 7. Couple of top 25s, couple of top 30s. Has had a month to reset, and now he's kind of like once he won the second time, he knew he was going to be back on the PGA Tour. And I think that now he gets this opportunity to reset, say, okay, I'm back. I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm a worldwide technology ambassador, whatever it is, whatever motivates the guy. And I think the big rig could play pretty well.
All right. I'm fine with that. You don't have the recent PGA Tour data to support any of it, but he has had success on the PGA Tour before. So I'm comfortable with it. All right. This is my last one.
Okay.
6,900. This is probably the no man's land price zone, but Scott Piercy's been hitting the ball pretty well.
Sponsors invite, I believe.
He's been driving it well. Iron play has been pretty good the last 3 events, coming off a T16 at the Shriners. He's made 4 cuts in a row. We need something to, I'm hoping that he goes to the broomstick or something this week without anybody knowing it. And you get lucky, find some sort of light with the putter, because that's the thing that's holding him back. And I know I'm leaning on it, but I'm just seeing some better play out of Scott Piercy, and potentially he could be an option.
It is very admirable of you. Scott Piercy has gotten himself into a lot of trouble tweeting about, presidential candidates and primaries and things like that, and lost some sponsors over it. And you're playing him during the week of the election. He's definitely going to be, he's going to be laser focused. I think. I don't know, man. This is a big week for him.
Locked in. Yeah. This is strokes gain politics.
That's right. We only
Maybe
get to
it'll
use
turn
it
into strokes game putting.
once every 4 years, right?
Yeah. What did he do in 2016 on election day?
Yeah. Okay, let's check 16. We'll check 20. We'll check like some of the midterm dates
Yeah.
if we
Yeah.
have to. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Strokes gained elections.
Yes. Strokes gained elections. My last one is, of course, just like $6,300 Corn Ferry Tour. Let's roll the dice and see what happens. It's Austin Hitt, Hitt. I don't know anything about him. Yeah, other than he's got some good finishes as of late. Since the Utah Championship, which was in August, he had 3 straight top 10 finishes. Then he missed 3 straight cuts, and he beat the field average at the Corn Ferry Tour Championship. So I have no idea. His summer moving forward was a very, like, this is what the guys on the Corn Ferry Tour do. They either miss the cut or they finish top 10, something like that. And he's that type of guy for this week. So very, very
it's very rare on the Corn Ferry Tour to see, it's like a Will Zalatoris, Sung J M, guys who make the cut every week out there.
It just doesn't happen.
They just don't do it. Yeah. And they could be legendary. I haven't looked at Scotty Scheffler's Corn Ferry Tour record. I should do that.
I don't know either. Well, and it's all, like, you're not even really incentivized to, just because of the way like the points work, and just like either take the best weeks or otherwise, like, I don't know.
Yeah, you hit it at the flag all day. Yeah. And sometimes you hit it close, sometimes you short side yourself and miss the cut.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Greg, anything else for this week?
I'm looking forward to it. Second year in a row at this golf course, develop our data set a little bit, and hopefully we get a fantastic finish like we did last year. That back 9 from EVR was just absolutely incredible, and emotionally charged as well. So I'm not sure there's any of those stories brewing, but it'll be emotional for whoever comes away with the title. That I'm sure of.
There will be a show on Tuesday, the Mega Preview Pod. I will not be there. I believe Patrick, we've called him in from the bullpen to host that show. Very much appreciated. I will be in the air for like 18 hours. So that is not going to happen for me. But then there'll be, of course, a Sunday show, which I will be back on. So it's the regular schedule this week: Monday, Tuesday, Sunday, for the Worldwide Technology Championship.
You will be somewhere in the Pacific Ocean at that time.
Yes, for sure. It is crazy. The whole thing's just over the Pacific. I'm like,
a long trip looking down at the ocean.
Yeah.
But people make it every day. So I don't know what you're going to do with yourself for those 18 hours, but certainly wish you a safe flight.
Thank you. I got to start downloading some content. Okay. Download the First Cut podcast wherever you get your audio pods, obviously the Golf on CBS YouTube channel. And I think that'll do it. Thanks to the producer, Josh, does all the hard work behind the scenes. Greg DuCharme, you can find him at The Real GFD, and you can find me at RickRunGood. This has been the First Cut. We'll catch you next time.